over the world, and we seem to think that it's over there. Believe you me, it's coming here extremely rapidly.
So what do you suggest as a good course of action?
Well, I think that the technology that you have here, like, I mean, we had this G20, and it took a while to find out who the officer was. First of all, it didn't happen. Then when we have pictures of it, it did happen. We're going to track down and find out what's going on. Well, you see, if the private sector had that information, and we didn't have to deal, I think it's going to require the court of public opinion. And you have the technology here to empower them to affect that.
See, one thing that might help is the surveillance cameras that police are putting on streets or whatever, or that the city's putting on streets. Maybe that data should be available to various citizens groups as well.
Totally.
All of
exactly.
them. Everything should be broadcast on the internet.
Exactly.
And if we're all going to be walking in the public,
I think you realize that the enforcement
that's what you take. We're all in that already.
They don't have competent help anymore. Like, they're hiring, from people in the forces themselves, they're getting an awful lot of incompetent people in the enforcement field. And that, if you look in other societies how this evolves, you soon see that the criminal element joining the police forces. And one thing I wanted to point out about how this goes, you see, when they stopped me, I went to Freedom of Information for the communications between the officer's cruiser that was sat there for 5 hours and headquarters.
Did he have a camera in his cruiser?
Apparently they say no, but I wouldn't necessarily believe that. So it was a woman, all right? And so I got the communication from the cruiser, which was through the radio system from London, which totaled maybe 3 minutes. She spent well over an hour on her cell phone in communication. So I was trying to access that, you see. Now,
private property.
These police should not be allowed to use cell phones at all. They shouldn't even allow to have them on their person. They didn't know whether it'd be an Attorney General phone or a private phone. And so, you see, when they use radios, our communities, all communities, have people with shortwave radios that they're called scanners that listen to the police. And so the people police the public under this radio system, police the police.
Sure,
you know?
Sure.
Well, now they've taken that away from us. And so they're trying to deny, they're saying that you might be able to get the times, but they don't think you're going to get, they don't think, they know that you're going to be able to get any of the recordings. Well, so these are changes in our enforcement system that are being slipped in unbeknownst to people for serious consequences to the public at large.
A great example of what he just explained is the Grand Chess Masters in France just recently, where they were caught cheating via using, there was a guy in Belgium was entering the moves in a computer because it was being broadcast live, so he's watching the table and plugging it into the computer, texting the coach of the player, and the coach walked around the room via walking around the room showed him the next best move according to the computer. The foundation said, of course, this is terrible. They've been caught cheating. They caught him. They knew because he was walking certain ways. But what did they do? They claimed private property over the text messages themselves, because they were a message between me to you, and if you and I then decide that it's private property and we don't want anybody else to know, all we have to do is make an agreement, and now it's private property, inadmissible in the court of law.
But you see, these officers were in the public realm. They were in uniform. Okay.
Yeah, officers have to.
When somebody was trying to record a police officer, they originally arrested him for recording the police officer, but eventually they dropped the charges against him because it was concluded that a police officer's conversation with a citizen is not a private conversation.
Of course.
Except the officers are no longer always in the public realm when they're acting, because they can now be hired as what's the term, off-duty, like off-duty hires.
For film production.
Film production and things like that happens a lot.
That are in private.
And they get often they get paid about twice as much.
Yes.
There's a certain...
You can ask me to help you. You could ask me to help you and give me a quarter, and I could be a peace officer at any given moment. It's just an agreement. It's their honor, their oath that they've made to serve and to protect the public. If I give you a pledge to serve and protect you right now, I will.
There's several ways you can determine whether an officer is operating de jure or de facto, and that is to ask him for his oath of office. And as soon as he...
For his what?
Oath of office. All police officers have an oath of office.
To serve and protect?
To serve and protect.
The public.
So help me God. All right?
And then a whole bunch of other stuff.
And a whole bunch of other stuff. And there's others as well. But if they won't provide the oath of office, they're operating illegitimately in de facto statutes.
Out of uniform.
They're operating...
They're not in uniform.
Outside... the trouble is, it's just like this money. People believe that there's substance there, that money is worth something, when it's simply a dead instrument. It's a belief. All right? So people believe that they're operating, when they're in de facto, they believe...
So what happens when you ask an officer to recite the oath?
They just refuse. I haven't had one give it to me yet.
Under the Magna Carta, if any public official refuses to give their oath of office, they are arrestable. Just that's
so
it. Lawfully.
It comes back to the question then, when an officer is breaking the law, who do you call to deal with that?
Well, this is when I think you need our peace officers, and you call them the public.
Yeah, that's right.
All right?
We the public. We the people.
That is... the public, like, I mean, if we're in a democracy, a free and democratic democracy, then it should be the people that are the arbitrators of the laws that they want to uphold or they don't want to uphold. But the difficulty is we have been put on a treadmill here that's being sped up constantly. I don't know if you deal with Bell Canada at all.
Mm-hmm.
If you phone Emily now, who's been recording to give you better service for 10 or 15 years, she now has another contract to offer you, which I discovered from my mother-in-law who passed away, can be done by the voice, over the phone.
Oh.
Okay, so Emily now will ask you, in order to speed up this treadmill, if you would like to let her record a copy of your voice. Then you won't have to provide a name, a birth date, account number, anything else. The computer will automatically pull your file.
Isn't that just for a password or something?
Yes.
Okay.
But it's as unique. It's as unique as your thumbprint.
Sure, sure.
But it's their property.
Yeah.
Because you gave it
To
by
buy and
consent.
sell how they want.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, do you realize they can run your voice print against databases to pull out those conversations?
Sure, sure. Yeah.
Okay, well you see, you have just given them under contract authorization to do that, and you will find out now that you cannot access the file with them. It's only unless you use the voice print. And I go back to this interesting thing about pygmies, and I go back to this thing in Scripture where it says, he, we're talking about this eye in the pyramid looking out of the light, you know, who the fellow that created that symbol in the 1700s said it would take 1 or 2, possibly 3 world wars before we can put him on the throne. Okay, as in a novus ordo seclorum, a new secular world order. Okay.
I have a question about that, because there's the one eye. Are you familiar with the pyramid with the one eye on top? Okay, so there's one eye. Now that since I have experts here, 3 of you, about the 3D, I was just asking you about 3D videos, because I can look at a computer screen and the computer screen is 2D, but it's my eyes that make me see it in a 3-dimensional interpretation, right? So this technology that with like 3D TV, or excuse me, like 3D TV and all that stuff, it's still all based on one thing, whether it be that we put on glasses and switch, you know, so that we think that it's even more 3D, but we're always seeing in 3D. It's this one eye thing about seeing everything in 2D. I just wonder if you have any insight about that, like technologically, like behind the, you know, this is almost like the one versus the 2 eyes, because we have 2 eyes and that's what makes us see in 3D, right?
Well, the camera, one eye seems to be more powerful than the 2 eyes.
Is it?
Is it not?
Well, they also have arrays of cameras. If you go to the UK, you see a lot of camera arrays, you know, to get some parallax. But I mean, I think that I'm really I'm thinking about, and I guess you got to go and we got to go soon too. I'm sort of thinking about what you're saying with this this problem, but what I'm not hearing, or what's missing, I think, so far is how to solve that problem.
Well, if we could get the figures on a few things, we could start, that would, like, I mean,
I could
it
say,
kind of boils, we're still in the economic warfare, so if we could find out what the economics are for this,